I can see why New Zealand has become such a famous...
This is what I could have won.
The 1,100 boats competing are split into 10 fleets.
He realized that he was not going to get off and that he could
barging in on Sadie the first time that she's been brave enough to look at her own scars.
Hi, I'm Stephen Tallamy, and in this video I wanted to talk to you about my experiences writing production music for both television, advertising and film. So I've been working in production music for quite a few years, but I'm by no means an expert in it, so I'm not going to try and sell you a book or a course on it. I just wanted to share my experiences working with production libraries. I've written around 75 or so tracks, and those have been placed on BBC, Channel 4 and internationally on NBC, Netflix and also Prime Video. So if you're not familiar with what production or library music is, it's effectively music that's been written specifically for use on TV, film, advertising, and it's usually used by productions that either don't have the budget to pay for a full-time composer or maybe don't even have the time to have the luxury of having bespoke music written for them. And so they will go to libraries or catalogues of music where they can pick music out and use to synchronize to their picture. So I got into production music when I was introduced to it by another composer, and we co-wrote a few tracks for a library, and that got my foot in the door to a couple of different libraries that I've written to various of their labels over the time. So I thought I would walk you through some of the tracks that I've written, talk about how they have been used in television, and then also talk a little bit about the royalties that I've earned from them. So let's take a look at one of my early tracks to see what sort of ingredients I'm putting into production music. So a lot of the music I'm writing usually has piano in it. So here you can see I'm using the Noir piano from Native Instruments, and I'm also using the soft piano from Spitfire Audio, but that one I'm only using the pads from the Cinematic Soft. So that's adding some of the textures over the top. So you'll see what I'm doing is I'm actually using multiple instances of Noir just to create some texture alongside the main piano. So let's listen to the very beginning again. So you see I've got a simple accompaniment going on here. And I've separated out the melody line. But then what's adding the little sparkle and the magic to this are these two other interacting piano parts. And it's these kind of ear candies that can be very popular in production music. It adds something that's always moving in the background beyond the sort of simple melodies. And then as the track develops, you can see we add some light strings, neo strings from Spitfire Audio, and then adding a few more different strings, spiccatos and so on as we build up. So the idea of this particular album was it was all positive, elegant builds. And so what you'll see I'm doing is I'm slowly adding elements, strummed acoustic guitars, we add in a kit to add a little bit of motor to it. And so as we go along, you'll see it slowly building up towards the ending. Adding a bass and a sub bass as well. So those are adding more elements towards the end, with the critical part being that there's a nice button ending on the end of the track that allows the editor to sort of close out whatever they're editing. So let's just take a look at how that track has been used in a few different shows.
Elle va être heureuse. Elle va pouvoir faire tout ce qu'elle veut. Elle pourra aller dehors.
Ouais, mais pas tout de suite.
Ah non, pas tout de suite. Non. On va jouer et on va lui faire des câlins.
You didn't choose cancer, but you can choose where you'll treat it.
And when you choose the James at Ohio State,
you're picking a team of experts who understand there is no routine cancer.
An den Schildern, die neben den Pflanzen stehen, ist ihr heilender Teil angegeben. Viele Gewächse treiben gerade aus. In kurzer Zeit wird der Apothekergarten in üppigem Grün stehen.
So along with the title of Positive Elegant Builds, there was also a sort of description around it. So in this particular case, it was sort of, again, elegance. It was looking for sophisticated, gradually building, but never getting too big, so never getting too jubilant. And you can see that in the resulting album. So you can see these are all of the different tracks. This is the one we were just listening to, Just One More Step. But you can see each one of them, just from those waveforms, you can see they're gradually building up. Throughout, there is that ongoing positive momentum. So let's talk a little bit about then delivering that music to the library. So once you've written the overall track and it's been accepted, you've still got work to do, because you're going to be needing to create different versions of that track so that then it can be used in different ways in a production. So let's take another more recent track of mine, Certain Stillness, comes from Delicate Piano Emotions. And what you'll see when you look at this track, there are multiple different versions of that track available for the editor to use, whether they want to have one without the lead, some underscores, and then different cuts of it at different lengths. And often they're also going to be looking for stems, whether those are published out from the library or just kept by the library so that they can remix themselves, really is going to depend on the library itself. So here is that track. Originally, I called it Held in Stillness, and that's quite common that you find that the track itself might get renamed throughout the process to fit the overall album. And you'll see what I've done here is I've bounced out various different stems. So depending again on the library, sometimes they'll be looking for, say, 6 stems, sort of strings, pianos, percussion, or something like that. Sometimes they'll be looking for, a larger selection of stems, and not necessarily by instrument group. It might be around what feature they are in the music. So if you've got lots of parts that are providing a motor, you might provide those all together in one stem. So it's really going to depend again on what the library wants, and it's very important when you're doing this kind of thing to read the brief, see what the delivery specs are, make sure you've got all of those ingredients right. So I would have bounced out these different groups from this particular track. I've also got a full mix, and then I've got some alternative versions of that. So then there are going to be short versions. So this particular library has what they call stingers, so really, really short clips that can just be used to drop in. And then they'll have a 30-second, a short. Sometimes I've also done like a 60-second. So you'll see in this Logic template, I've marked out where 30 seconds is, where 60 seconds is, just to make it easy for me to kind of see where I need to hit in terms of those particular edits. Typically, I'm creating all of these cut downs and mixes actually from the original stems or from the full track mix. So what you see, I've taken the full mix from here, copied it up into the 30-second edit, and then what I've done is I've faded in the beginning of it just so that it doesn't completely stand out. So what you can see I've tried to do is aim that last note on 27 seconds, and then it's got 3 seconds to kind of fade away, and then I'm always allowing a little bit extra over the 30 seconds just to have that additional fade out if they want to use that. Again, they can fade a little bit quicker in the edit if they want to get exactly on 30 seconds. And then you can see the other ones, I've got shorter edits, and what I'm having to do is to create these stingers is sometimes I'm taking just the ending very, very quickly, and then other times I'm taking different parts of the track and crossfading them together, typically using that ending as the way in which it concludes. So you can see then I've got these alt versions here. These are like a no lead, piano and cello, and a minimal version. These give the editor different options, and all of these need to be in time with the original so that they could be using the full mix. And then if they need to go back to some dialogue, they could maybe move into the minimal version, and everything stays synchronized together. So the way I'm doing that is, you can see I've got each of my stems here, and each one is going out to buses, and basically I'm using buses to create the mixes of these 3 alts. Again, you could do this a different way and go back to the original track and really create your own mixes from individual instruments without using the stems, but I found this is the fastest way for me to work. And the way I like to do this is opening up the mixer panel. You can see immediately which ones have contributed to each of the alt versions. So 11 is one of the alts, 12 and 13, these are each of the alts. And even better, what you can do is you can use the sends on faders. So if you want to see what's going into the no lead one, you can see this is the kind of balance that I've done. If we switch to another one, you'll see that I've changed the mix. And once again, change the mix again. So that's just really to balance the instrumentation, because when you're taking certain things out, you are losing some of the important parts. So it's about creating a version that will work as a standalone track. So what you'll see here is I've got a minimal amount of plugins that are also on these tracks, and that's going to again depend on the library. They might want you to fully master it, they might be doing the mastering themselves, really their choice. So for this particular library I'm trying to aim close to 0 decibels, so you can see I've brought the gain of the track up a little bit from what I had previously recorded in Logic, and then I've got another meter here, another one that is free, which allows you to look at the loudness. So this is giving me a loudness level, and again depending on the particular library they might be aiming for you to keep the sort of main part of the track in a particular loudness threshold. So I'm not really doing any EQ or anything else in this template. I would probably more likely do that in the writing version of this, where I've got the original instrumentation, so again I can tweak and change the samples and mess around with EQ and do it all at once. This is just really getting it to the right sort of levels. So in terms of sample libraries I'm using, and I'm only really going to mention a few here, but these are ones that pretty much consistently are turning up in my template and I'm using them over and over again. Complete is a really good range. What you have in terms of the included instruments are quite incredible. All of the orchestral, the pianos, and textures, loads and loads of really useful stuff for a wide range of instruments. They do have the standard edition, which is a little bit more affordable. I actually started there and then upgraded to the ultimate edition eventually. So again, that has quite a lot if you actually do a comparison of the two. The sort of ones that I'm using regularly, as you would have seen, I use Noir, so that's actually in both. Alicia's keys I use a lot because I find it cuts through in the mix. That is only available in the ultimate, and you can see they've got loads of guitars. What I really like is these give a nice strummed natural sound, giving a bit of energy. A lot of them are only available in the ultimate, but you do get some of them in the standard edition, so that's pretty cool. Certainly I recommend checking it out. Try and get it on a sale, because right now it's at full price, but I'm sure you'll find that you can get a good deal on it at some time around Black Friday. So another sample library that's made its way into my template quite a bit recently has been Glade, which comes from Audio Imperia, and the great thing about this one is it is completely free, but it is a really fully fledged library that they've put out. It's quite incredible. It's got individual sounds, but it's also got these blended designer interface where you can use different articulations and different presets together and they can be moving. So it's all about really creating movement from quite a rich set of really interesting instruments. So you can see they've got pan pipes, they've got vocals, they've got strings, so it's a whole selection of really nice different instrumentation that is available for free, so that I see no reason why you shouldn't pick this up. It works with the Kontakt player, so you don't even have to buy the full Kontakt. So the string library I use most consistently is the chamber strings. I just find it fits my kind of vibe. It's not too brash, has a beautiful sound, so I'm just really used to using this string library. I might use some other libraries just to add different textures, but if it's core writing of cello, bass, violins, violas, I'm definitely going to go to this. There are a couple of different editions of this. So the one that I bought was this full edition, but you can get an essentials edition and a professional edition. Professional adds more mic positions. So really check out the different options there, and there's usually an upgrade path. So maybe you could try the essentials and then go up to this one, because that's quite a big investment in terms of price. But look out, again, there's always deals. So another set of samples that I find really useful is Musio. So Musio has all sorts of different things in there. So if you're given a brief and you need to have a particular instrument and you don't have it from what you can use, this can be a really good way of topping up your instruments. So when I bought this platform originally, it was available as a lifetime perpetual license of all of the instruments. They don't do that anymore. So they've now got it at $17 a month, and that's if you bill annually. You can also pay for it every month. It's a slightly higher subscription fee, but you can also buy the individual parts of it in a perpetual way. So each one of these is then licensed forever. So one option might be that you could buy it for a few months, try it out, see which instruments you're actually really using, and then actually go and buy those perpetually. So one that I use a lot from this library is the Tina Goa ones, particularly this acoustic cello one, which has got the legato in it. I use that a lot as a featured instrument, and it's really superb. So there are lots of virtual synths out there. I'm finding I'm using Diva quite a lot, and the reason I did that is because there are lots of presets from the unfinished for Diva. So I bought some of them, the Anahura bundle, but there are lots of other ones here in terms of if you want different types of textures, more cinematic, driving things. So again, that can be a really good inspiration engine for adding textures, adding movement to your pieces. So in terms of the ways in which you can get paid for production library music, the majority of that comes through performing royalties. Now, typically what that means is that you'll write your track, it will get sent to your publisher, and you will sign an agreement with them as to how you're going to cut up the royalties between the two of you. Typically, most production libraries don't give you any advance fee. There are a couple of libraries that may still do that, but in the majority of cases, you're sending in your work. So effectively, you're working for free at this point, sending in your music with the hope that it gets published. Now, obviously, if you're working with a good publisher, they will have written good briefs for you and have a good idea of what's going to be used. So there's a good chance that whatever you write will get some form of placement. So whenever a production company, say a reality TV show or documentary maker, is needing a piece of music, they'll be going to the library and they will be paying an upfront fee, usually known as a sync fee, to synchronize your music to their picture. And that's usually a one-off payment. It usually covers them across any usage that they need for that particular production. If they are reusing the piece of music, then each time they reuse it, they will be repaying that fee. Now, in my case, that's usually quite a small amount of money. Now, some types of production or library music, say trailer music or advertising music, may get a bigger upfront fee, but that's usually to compensate for the fact that they may not get so much in terms of performance royalties because they may not be aired on TV in quite the same way. For me, it's typically everything I'm writing is for TV usage, and so I'm just getting a small sync fee upfront for these particular usages. There can also be a mechanical license, which is where you are giving someone a license to copy your music. Sort of dates back to the ability to reproduce onto different vinyl or CD mechanisms. This again still can exist in some cases, but again from my perspective usually is a very small amount of money because again most of it is about the back-end royalties that are going to happen when the music is performed. So as I mentioned, the main source of royalties for me is through performance royalties. So this is when the TV show or advert is aired on TV. Every single time that it is aired, I will receive a payment. And depending on what time of day, how much music they use, what channel it is, basically an idea of the size of the audience, I will get a different size of royalty. So let's take a look at the money I've earned, and it's not a lot. I've got quite a small collection of tracks. 75 might sound like a lot, but those who are doing this full time may have thousands and thousands of tracks working for them. It's also going to depend again on what sort of music you're writing, how popular it is at the moment, what libraries you're in, etc. So I keep a track of all of the tracks that I've written, which albums they were in, what publishers, when they were actually released. I keep a full record of everything that I've got, and then what I can do is track those against my PRS, which is my performance royalty organization. And then you can see how that then is working out in terms of my royalties. So my very first royalty that I got was in October. My first royalty check came to a whopping £8. So it really wasn't a lot of money. And you can see where each of these tracks have started to receive payment over time. So I had a good set of payments on this particular track in October, and then sort of sustained ones. And hopefully, as you see, the sea of green grows and grows as we go over to the right-hand side, so more and more tracks. So eventually tracks do get picked up. They get little bits of money here and there. So you can see this is my most recent July statement. Again, not a lot of money being made here. And most of that was actually made from one track. This was used in a Gordon Ramsay show, so probably was used on a popular network and got a lot of audience. So that was where I made the most money there. I also get some sync royalties, as mentioned, and that has added a little bit to the overall pot, but not huge amounts. But I do find it interesting just again to see which are the most popular tracks, which have been working for me, and then how long it has been until I actually start to see a royalty from when something has been published. And the main thing there is to be patient. It may take years until a particular track actually gets used. So one of the tools that I use quite a lot is Tunesat. This allows you to upload your tracks to it, and it will create a fingerprint of those, and then it's listening to broadcast signals from around the world. And so here you can see this is one of my original usages, and you can actually have a listen to the clip of that track in context.
Le carnet de santé, ça y est, Bella nous appartient. J'ai le doigt qui tremble, c'est l'émotion.
So this doesn't guarantee that you're going to get paid for these tracks. That has to be through cue sheets. They're going to get submitted to the broadcasters and then sent into the performance royalty organisation. And as you can see, I've got a lot of overseas things. So we've got some from the US, some from France. These can take even longer. If it's your local performance royalty organisation, then you get quite a lot of transparency usually because you can see the cue sheets. But if it's abroad, you really don't get that because it's not your royalty organisation. They're just forwarding it on to you. So I can get all sorts of different detail as to how my tracks are being used. So you can see this track that I played at the beginning has been used a load of times because it's been in an advert that's turned up on sports tournaments. And unfortunately, it seems like I've really not been paid for quite a lot of these performances. I've tried to go back and forth with PRS on this and asked them about what's going on, raised many support cases, given all of this information. I've been paid for a small portion of these performances, but I'm missing a lot. And it's really difficult. There's not much I can do in terms of the payment of those tracks other than keep sending in the same information and them trying to go back to the royalty organisations in the US. So that's something that this isn't a guarantee to you getting paid, but it is a good way of monitoring things. So if you write production music yourself, I'd be really keen to hear in the comments below, like, what are your experiences? What are your royalties like? Have you had some of the issues that I've faced in terms of international royalties? Please do drop a comment below. Now, I do know it's been a little while since I've made one of these videos, so if you're a subscriber, thank you very much for sticking with me and supporting me. If you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing below. I will be making some new videos coming up, including quite an exciting project. But for now, a big thumbs up would be very much appreciated. If you've enjoyed the content, share it with anybody you think might be relevant, and I'll see you in the next one.